So, is Klaviyo the best e-commerce email marketing software? We're going to go into that in today's video and just touch on some of the pros, the cons, and whether you should be using Klaviyo in your marketing for your e-commerce store. So, essentially, there's too many ESPs to count, to be honest. And if you don't know ESP, it just means email service provider. So it's just software that you use to send emails, create segments of your list, add contacts to, all of this type of thing. So as I say, there are many ESPs that an e-commerce brand could use. For example, Klaviyo, Omnisend, HubSpot, MailChimp, Sendy, Active Campaign, Constant Contact. As I say, there's so many. And at Johnston Media, we've used most of them, to be honest with you. And as I say, we work with e-commerce stores, so that's our main focus here. So let's just go over the good, the bad, and essentially just see if Klaviyo is the best choice for your store to flourish and to get the most revenue that it can out of email. So in terms of the good, as you can see, there's many more good aspects of it than there are bad. So the good features are, the fact that there are tons of useful features that are made just for e-commerce that you won't find in other ESPs. So obviously, some ESPs, they're not made for e-commerce specifically, like MailChimp is not made for e-commerce. So obviously Klaviyo has the benefit of being made just for e-commerce. So there's a bunch of features in there that are made just for that in terms of the metrics and the analytics and everything. It's really handy if you have an e-commerce store. It shows the key metrics for an e-commerce store. So, as I say, it will show you the revenue, the sales generated, the customers' profiles, the LTV of the customers, all of this type of thing will be in Klaviyo. The interface is very easy to use. So it's not very complicated. Even if you don't know much about marketing or code or anything, you can pretty much just jump in and probably start sending out some emails. Now, they may not be amazing. You may not be getting 30% of your store's revenue from email just by doing it yourself, but obviously you can still use the interface quite easily. So it integrates easily with Shopify and WooCommerce as well. So obviously it just makes the syncing between the two very easy. If you get a sale on Shopify, it will sync through to Klaviyo, so you can see directly on Klaviyo every sale that came through email, and it will be direct data from Shopify as well. And Klaviyo has a bunch of flows that are built in. So even if you don't know how to build like logic flows, like from a trigger and then a delay and then an action, probably you've not done this before. And it has a bunch of them built in. So the welcome flow, for example, abandoned carts, abandoned checkouts, post-purchase flows, like all of these, they are all built in. And you can basically just plug and play and pick the one you want. And then obviously that will be set up there. Now, obviously that's a basic structure, but you're going to have to design the emails. You're going to have to schedule them out, split tests, all of this, and usually the flows are quite basic that they give you, and it will just be maybe 2 emails or something in the flow, but maybe you could add up to 5 or 6 emails in a flow. So of course you can add and edit the flows that are built in. It integrates easily with Facebook audiences. So if you have an audience on Facebook, on your business manager, and you'd like to sync it with Klaviyo, super easy. In fact, with our clients, what we usually do is if they run Facebook ads, we'll sync it directly to a Klaviyo list. So every, say, new subscriber that they get will be automatically added to Klaviyo, to their email list. And it just makes it super easy to go from Facebook to Klaviyo. And then also you can use audiences from Facebook inside of Klaviyo as well if you'd like to use people who visited your website or anything like this. That is possible to do if you're synced with Klaviyo and Facebook. There's a huge variety of audiences to choose. So of course segments of your list is a huge part of email marketing, is segments. And with Klaviyo you can make basically infinite, segments that you'd like. It doesn't come with any pre-built, but you can add them yourself, and they're pretty easy to just come up with a basic segment. And yeah, it's reasonably priced. It's not expensive. Unlike some ESPs, Klaviyo is actually pretty fair, and we'll go into a bit about that in just a couple of slides, where I'll give an example of a client that we have and how much they pay. So yeah, these are the good points of Klaviyo, and as you see, it really does have many, many good points, but there are a couple bad points that I do feel I need to mention. So the fact that it is a bit of a steep learning curve to be using it in an advanced way. This is probably the same with every software really, so it's not even really a problem with Klaviyo. It's just that obviously if you'd like to push it to the full potential, it's not super easy and simple to understand. So that could be listed as a bad point there. The analytics, again, can be complicated for beginners. There's a bunch of metrics in there that may look confusing. So if you don't really know too much about analytics or email marketing, you may get a bit overwhelmed looking at the analytics. But obviously there's gems in there, so it really is important to go through it, or to hire an agency like mine to just handle the analytics as part of the monthly fee. And yeah, it's a bit tedious to set up the active on site and the added to cart metrics. If you don't know any code, that is, it can be a little bit tedious just to get it set up and triggering correctly. If you have, it can be a bit difficult. You'll see when you do it, if you do this yourself, where if there's a button versus if it takes you to an add to cart page versus if it's just like adds to cart and then keeps on the same page, it can be a different. So as you see, it could just be a little bit complicated with the technicalities there. But yeah, overwhelmingly good, and only very small amounts of bad points here. Klaviyo also provides benchmark data, so you have a baseline within your industry to see how your results perform versus competitors. So Klaviyo will give you, an average industry open rate, and then it will compare yours to the average, and then you'll get a red or a green basically for, if you're good or if you're doing bad, or maybe you're doing okay. So this means that you can see if your emails are doing poorly, average, great, or stellar, which is super helpful. And Klaviyo can also provide insights into, quite frankly, super important things about your customers, such as the predicted CLV, or the customer lifetime value. This is how much a customer is likely to spend with your brand based on past purchases that they've made and just how engaged they are. Klaviyo has a formula to work out how much they're going to spend on average with you, and this can be pretty accurate actually. Gender as well, so it'll tell you info about the gender of the contact, the age, and then the expected date of next order as well, which is super handy. If you have a supplement store or something like this, people need to buy renewals, this could be really important. And obviously, yeah, can do some really cool things with that. Now, these types of metrics are extremely valuable to your e-commerce store, and they can be used to make segments of your email list. Now, to kind of go on the point that I was talking about earlier, Klaviyo is fairly priced. It's not expensive. It's pretty reasonable. So, for example, one of our clients who have 97 contacts, and these are contacts. They have 87K, I think, active contacts. But they spend $1,200 a month on Klaviyo, and some emails that we send, individual emails, just as campaigns, they bring in over 5K. So, as you can see, it's definitely not bad. It depends on how many times you email. Of course, if you're only emailing once a month for some reason, then maybe it's not as worth it. But you should be emailing much more than that anyway. So it's really up to you to get the most out of the money that you're spending. If you do have a Klaviyo account that you're paying for, that you're not using, again, this is a big waste of money, and you really could be doing much more with the list and pulling in much more revenue there. And not just that, but it actually has 70 plus plug and play templates available, so you don't need to be a graphic designer to make something that doesn't look too bad. It's not gonna be breathtaking. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it's going to have a basic email design. You know, it's going to have a header, it's going to have you know, an above the fold kind of bit, it's going to have some text underneath, and then maybe some buttons towards the bottom. But yeah, it's not going to be anything crazy. As I say, maybe your click rates won't be very high, but it gives you a good start into getting some emails sent. Now, our designer at Johnston Media doesn't actually use Klaviyo to design emails. It's done actually in Figma, and then we export to HTML within Klaviyo. And, you know, frankly, you'll get more clicks with the unique email versus if you just use like a template one. Like it's just because many more brands use the templates versus a unique one. So people are likely just to have seen it before. It's not going to look as interesting. It's just going to, you know, it'll have more fatigue to it than a unique email. And also it just doesn't allow you to really paint your brand in the way that you would fully like to, that you can do if you design it yourself with a designer. But as I say, if you're starting out and you don't have a designer, you still have a lot of choices to get started and to actually start emailing your list, which is great. However, obviously, this is kind of important to note. To drive real value from automations and from campaigns as well, you need a team that understands the fundamentals and how to customize automations for your requirements, and obviously campaigns as well, because one size does not fit all, quite frankly. You know, we have to change things up, can't all send the same emails and expect the same results. So the reality of email marketing is that it takes a lot of emails per month to generate 30% of your store's revenue. And this will, depending on where you're at, will probably be more in campaigns side of things, but it could also be flows if you don't have many flows. But to get to that 30% of your revenue, you're going to have to be emailing your list a couple of times a week, or at least a couple of segments of your audience, maybe not your whole list, but segments of your audience, multiple times per week. When we get 30% of our revenue, clients' revenue, it's typically from maybe 15 emails a month. Our packages is 10 and 20 emails a month, so it's it will usually be more of the 20 per month when it's that 30% of revenue, which is important to note. So obviously sending 20 emails every month is one pretty much, is one, and then one the next day, and then you miss one, and then you'd send one the next day, and it's pretty much like that all month. So yeah, 2/3 of the month you'll have to send an email. So if you're ready to do that, go ahead. But of course, most likely you're not going to be able to do that. So as I say, you'll be sending 1 to 5 campaigns a week and adding new flow emails, as well as split testing and actually pouring through the results. It does take a lot of time. So if you run an e-commerce store, save yourself the headache of learning to be an email expert and apply to work with my agency using the link below. And yeah, obviously this was hopefully helpful for you. And obviously if you don't have an ESP at the moment, Klaviyo really is a great choice. And if you're an e-commerce store especially. If you're not e-commerce, then I actually don't know if this is the best for you. But in terms of e-commerce anyway, I frankly would say that it is the best. So yeah, as I say, if you have an e-commerce store, check out Klaviyo and you'll be pleasantly surprised. But yeah, hope that was helpful and see you in the next video.